7 of the college football season. I say it every time, I'm going to say it every week already. So last night they had the Coastal Carolina Louisiana game. I'm going to do a separate review for that game. I obviously didn't preview it because I previewed it in last week's predictions because it was supposed to be last weekend. But we'll go right into this week's predictions because there's games on Thursday and 2 games on Friday, and obviously the most on Saturday. So we'll get right into it. Georgia State at Arkansas State. Arkansas State is favored by 3.5. The over-under is 72.5. Georgia State is coming off of that win against East Carolina, and Arkansas State also coming off of a win to Central Arkansas. Main story for this game is going to be Destin Coates for me. He's going to be my player to watch. He's got 57 attempts, 263 yards, 4.6 average, and 3 touchdowns on the year. The quarterback hasn't played the greatest. I think his numbers are like 4 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. I mean, he's played okay, but not like Destin Coates is the guy that needs to win this game for them. Destin Coates leads the Sun Belt with 131.5 yards a game, and he's second in the conference in touchdowns. So, like I said, he's important to their team. They obviously expect Arkansas State to play both of their quarterbacks. They've usually been doing that. Logan Bonner did win the job, but they have been flipping a lot. So, again, expect both of them to play. Expect both of them to look for wide receiver Jonathan Adams Jr. He leads the conference in receptions, and he ranks 10th nationally in receptions with 26 already on the year. He also leads the Sun Belt with 5 touchdowns, and he's tied for 4th nationally for that as well. So both of these teams have really fun players on offense to watch. Destin Coates, Jonathan Adams Jr., those two respectively are fantastic players. So I do think it can be a very good offensive game. So I'm expecting an offensive game. I wouldn't imagine a defensive game in this game at all. But when it does come time for the talk to defenses, who is going to step up? Which defense is going to step up? So the thing that obviously sticks up to me, because Destin Coates is my player to watch, is Georgia State is rushing for 235 yards a game, and Arkansas State is giving up 152 rushing yards a game. So it's got potential for Destin Coates to blow this thing up. Obviously, Arkansas State has the team to keep up, obviously. Who knows how the quarterbacks are going to click for Arkansas State. Arkansas State needs a huge game from Forrest Merrill. He's an NFL prospect, a legit one. He's at the defensive tackle, nose guard position. He needs to bully their offensive line and keep Destin Coates in the backfield as much as they can. And they also need a game from Justin Rice, the reigning Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year. And I think they do get that one stop. I think Arkansas State does get that one stop. I think Arkansas State wins 34-28. Next game we'll jump right into is 4-0 SMU at 2-2 Tulane. SMU is favored by 6.5. I'm shocked it's not more. The over-under is 64. SMU coming off of their win against Memphis, and Tulane coming off of that loss to Houston. Player to watch is Shane Buechele. I mean, how well does he just sling it all over Tulane's defense? Tulane's allowing 400 yards of offense a game. They're allowing 271 passing yards a game. That's more specific. I can't get much into this game because the simple fact that Tulane has been a weird team, but also the fact that last week against Houston, they forced 5 turnovers and still lost the game. That's bad. So I'm going to pick SMU to win big here, 45-24. Next game is 4-0 BYU at 1-0 Houston. BYU is favored by 4. The over-under is 61. BYU's last game was against UTSA, coming off of a 7-point win there. And Houston's last game was against Tulane, like I said, where they had 5 turnovers. Player to watch is Tulane quarterback Clayton Tune. He had 319 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble versus Tulane. The big thing for him was the turnovers. You don't want to give BYU's offense any other reason to score more points. So that is questionable right now. They put 49 against Tulane, but that's Tulane. BYU is only giving up 11 points per game, so that's yikes. Both rushing defenses for these teams are good. Granted, Houston has only played 1 game. BYU is allowing 71 yards a game, and Houston is allowing 70 a game, which was just last week. So like I said, turnovers are the big key for Houston. Don't turn the ball over, not even once in this game, especially not 5 times. How is Tyler Algier and Zach Wilson fare against Houston's defense, or how does Houston's defense fare against them? I don't think they do. I think they keep it close for a while. I think maybe UTSA might have gave some film to some people on how to maybe keep BYU's offense a little down to everyone else's level, maybe. I think BYU wins 31-20. Next game is 3-0 Cincinnati at 1-1 Tulsa. Cincinnati is favored by 3. The over-under is 44.5. Cincinnati coming off of that win against USF, and Tulsa coming off of that win against UCF. Player to watch is Desmond Ridder. He's got a 51 QBR, 597 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. It's been a very roller coaster year for him. He's had some really pretty spots. He's had some really ugly spots that if he cleans up, he can really make this team a force, because their defense is already serious. But if you get a quarterback that starts taking care of the ball and starts putting some points on the board, Cincinnati's got a serious team. We'll talk about Cincinnati's offense, because they're scoring 35 points per game. I don't think they're playing maybe as well as the amount of points they're putting up. I think the defense has a lot to do with that. But they got almost 400 yards a game, where Tulsa is giving up 370 yards a game. So that's key for me, is Desmond Ridder's performance. Does he make simple mistakes like missing a receiver or missing a wide open deep ball like he's done before in the past? And can Tulsa force turnovers on Cincinnati? If I'm Tulsa, my goal is to keep my offense on the field as much as possible to wear down that Cincinnati offense. So I'm not sure if they run any kind of no huddle or anything like that. Maybe they want to slow down the tempo for this game, keep Cincinnati's defense on there, get them tired. It's going to be hard to do. I mean, Army's option attack couldn't even do that to Cincinnati's defense, so it's a tall task. Tulsa does lead the nation in tackles for loss. They had 10 versus UCF and 12 versus Oklahoma State. That's impressive. That front line, if they can shut down Cincinnati's rushing game, which is rushing for 178 yards a game, and just force Desmond Ridder to make plays, that could put them in a really good spot to win. I think they do win. I think Tulsa wins in the upset. I think they win 20-17 in a lower scoring game than some of the other games on for this week. Next game is at 2-2 Navy at 1-2 East Carolina. Navy is favored it. It changed. ECU was favored by like a point, but they changed the spread to Navy by 2.5. The over-under is 59. Navy coming off of that win against Temple. East Carolina coming off of that win against USF. So, player to watch, for me, it's more of a unit, and it's the Navy's entire offensive line. And it's Navy's entire offensive line. Do they get the push that they need early? They're only averaging 166 rush yards per game. That is nothing like them. They're usually in the 300 range. They're only scoring 17 points a game. They're giving up 37. So, yeah, there's concern for Navy in this game. And you can look back and you can talk about Navy's past games. They're a really funny team. They won the games I didn't think they were going to win. They lost the ones. It's crazy. But the whole line needs to get out to a hot start. They need to start blocking. If I'm Navy and I win the coin toss, I am definitely taking the ball first to get that offense going. Because once they're ahead, they can play so much easier. They gotta make sure they don't fall behind. Because once they fall behind, that's when they start throwing a lot. And yes, they might have a better passing game than previous years, but it's not going to win them many games. They're 2-2. They won last week. It was Temple's first game, but my point is they're not going to win games by throwing the football that much. So that's my big key for East Carolina. Can East Carolina's defense make Navy throw? Can they put them in a position where Navy's down 14-3 or down by 2 scores or whatever the case may be to make them really throw? I don't think they do. I do think Navy wins. I think Navy's going to struggle again. I think they're going to win 33-27 though. Next game is 1-4 Texas State at 1-2 South Alabama. South Alabama is favored by 2. The over-under is 57. Texas State's coming off of a loss to Troy. South Alabama's coming off of a loss to UAB. Tyler Vitt, technically backup quarterback because they had another guy that was in there but got hurt, COVID-related stuff or whatever the case may be. But he's played decent, 65.5 QBR, 602 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Both of these teams are, in my opinion, are kind of equally in that same spot. I think combined last year, they were like 3-13 in the conference. So both these teams are really looking to step it up and take the next level. I don't know if Texas State is ready to do that at 1-4. If anything, South Alabama is more set up at 1-2. I picked Texas State before. They lost. When I didn't pick them, they won that one time. I'm not sold on South Alabama. I'm going to say Texas State gets the upset. And what would be an upset because South Alabama was favored by 2. But I think they're going to win 37-31. Next game is 1-3 USF at 0-1 Temple. Temple coming off of the loss to Navy. They're still favored by 10 at this point. Over-under is 52.5. And USF coming off of that loss like we talked about to East Carolina. My player to watch here is Temple running back Romaine Davis. He's got 23 attempts, 97 yards, 1 touchdown, 4.2 average against Navy. It's a pretty good day. And if they can control the ball running, they can control this game running the ball, they will win because USF is only scoring 14.5 points a game, and they're allowing 220 rushing yards a game. So that is a recipe for success. So, can USF score more points than 14? And I'm not sure if they can because obviously they're 1-3. They have not been impressive. They played multiple quarterbacks. The key to this game for me for Temple is the combination of Anthony Russo and Romaine Davis. So I said if they can get that running game going, to really control the game. And honestly, this game could turn out to a blowout maybe. I'm not really sure what Temple is yet. But like I said, the poor USF run defense. So Romaine Davis with Anthony Russo. Is Anthony Russo going to be the game manager and not turn the ball over, make the throws, put some points on the board while Davis does the heavy lifting? I think that is the case. I think Temple is going to cover the spread. I think it's going to be 24-14. I think USF will stay right at that 14 mark for offense. 4-1 Army versus 3-2 UTSA. Army's favored by 7. Over-under's 49. Army's coming off of that, just a win against Citadel. I was going to go over to it, but I'm not going to. UTSA is coming off of that loss. Is there such thing as an impressive loss? I mean, impressive to me. They lost by 7 to BYU. They really hung in there. So, 2 stories for this game. Well, could be 3, actually. Sincere McCormick versus Army's crazy good rush defense, Army's offensive line versus UTSA's defensive line, and penalties for Army. I was watching Army last week against the Citadel. My eyes were bloodshot. I was so aggravated. I was surprised Army was favorite in this game. They're 4-1. Okay, whatever. Now, I'm obviously more in the Army world. I'm an Army fan, as you can see. So I'm going to be able to talk on this a little bit easier at the beginning because I'm just getting started, really talking about and getting into all the other teams. But for me, it's a good starting point. So we'll get really into this one. So Army's offensive line has not been good even the last year. Even last year, they weren't the greatest. I'm sorry, this game stresses me out. I've seen Army fans question why other Army fans are picking UTSA or why they're shocked that Army's favored in this game. Why are you shocked that people are shocked about Army being favored? I've seen some people say, who has UTSA played before? And I'm going to be harsh against Army here. People have said, who has UTSA played? Well, they played BYU and they lost, yes. They lost to UAB, yes, when they didn't have their starting quarterback. But who has Army beaten? They've played two of the weakest teams in college football from Middle Tennessee State and UL Monroe. They lost against the one reputable opponent they had finally, Cincinnati, and they lost. And then they played the Citadel and struggled like crazy on offense. The defense is great. They're only allowing 12 to 13 points a game. They're only allowing 181 passing yards, 83 rushing yards a game. So if anything, it's more of the Army's defense just needs preventing those big plays that get, drawn out for 20, 30 yards. But this player to watch for me was Army's offensive line. They played miserably last week. They've had old players talking about how they're not playing good at all. They're not playing inspired. They're not buying into their brotherhood or whatever. That's an issue for me. To the people that think Army should win easily here, I don't know if you've been really an Army fan long enough to know that technically every game for Army is tough. They don't have the best athletes in the world by any means or anything like that. UTSA is from Texas. If they got Texas players, they're obviously very talented. It baffles me that people are so shocked that people say UTSA should be favored. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm one of those guys. I think UTSA should be favored in this game. It doesn't make sense for Army. They're 4-1, but like I said, their 4 wins have come off of meh competition. And then one time they did have good competition, they lost. Their offense completely didn't show up. And they almost didn't show up last week. Thank God for their defense. So again, will Army's offensive line be able to actually block and create space for the fullbacks? Will Army not call 15 fullback traps when more than half of them aren't working? Army's passing game, real quick. All Army needs to do to incorporate some throws is get some slants or curl routes or, little wheel routes, screens that get you like 6, 7, 8 yards and maybe 1 or 2 plays that get you a big chunk play. I've seen times where Army gets like 3rd and 5 and they throw 30 yards down the field. Why? You only need 5 yards to get the 5 yards, get a first down, live to live another set of downs. But they don't do that. To me, that's their offense coordinator, poor play calling. I don't care what the analytics say. Coach from the heart and the brain, man. I don't like the analytics thing from any team. It just doesn't make sense to me, because if that's the case, we'll just hire someone who has no expertise and then the computer will just tell them what to do and they're good. They don't have to pay on anything. But maybe that's another video for another time. And as I said, Sincere McCormick versus Army's good rushing defense. That is going to be fun to watch. Who gets the advantage there? And I'm going to say it. If UTSA takes away Army's fullback, as we've seen, Army loves to still go to the fullback when it's not working. But if UTSA takes away the fullback, UTSA has a great possibility of winning this game. However, I will say UTSA should be favorite, but I cannot pick against Army. I think Army's going to win 20-13 if the offensive line actually manages to show up. Next game is 1-3 Western Kentucky at 3-1 UAB. UAB is favored by 12.5. The over-under is 45. Western Kentucky coming off of that loss to Marshall. UAB coming off of that win against UTSA. So my player to watch is obviously Spencer Brown. It's probably going to be every UAB game. 86 attempts, 450 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5.2 average. Western Kentucky really playing some pretty bad football. Both teams give up a lot of yards on the ground. Just UAB doesn't give up as much in the air as Western Kentucky does. So that's the highlight. Spencer Brown and Western Kentucky's weak rushing defense. Because I can kind of see this thing getting out of hand if Spencer Brown's just running all over them. I do kind of think that happens. I think UAB is going to win 35-17. UCF at Memphis. UCF is favored by 3.5. The over-under is 75. UCF coming off of that loss to Tulsa. Memphis coming off of that loss to SMU. Dylan Gabriel is my player to watch. 67.4 QBR. 1,155 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Big highlight for this game. It's going to be a fun one. I'm going to watch this game. Just UCF, avoid the penalties. Good grief. UCF, I think, still wins. Maybe in an overtime game. I'm going to say it. I think UCF wins 45-40 in overtime. Next game, North Texas at MTSU. Side note, I think North Texas could be a little bit better of a team if their defense was a little bit gelled together without injuries. But MTSU is favored by 6.5. The over-under is 67.5. Asher O'Hara is my player to watch in this game, especially when they're only scoring 19 points per game and they're allowing 34 per game. Same kind of story for North Texas, but they're scoring a lot more points than them. 36, and they're giving up 46. MTSU has to score more than their average. They got to put up more than 20 points. UNT is usually known for their offense. Their defense is banged up, so their offense has got to score plenty of points. Obviously, like I said, North Texas defense is a big question because of the injuries or whatever's going on. But I do think North Texas's offense could be enough to win this game, and I think they are. I think they'll score a good amount of points and keep it close. But ultimately, because of their defense situation, I think MTSU just slips away with a win, 31-30. Next game is Marshall at LA Tech. Marshall's favored by 13.5. Over-under is 51.5. Player to watch is quarterback Luke Anthony for Louisiana Tech. 50 QBR, 739 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Marshall's stingy defense is going to be an issue in this game. I can tell you right now, Louisiana Tech would need to run the ball a little bit to really win this game. But if there's any chance, Luke Anthony needs a career day against a crazy good defense. They need a career day here from him. I don't know if they're going to get it. I actually doubt they're going to get it. And on top of Marshall only allowing 89 rushing yards a game, they're only allowing 185 passing yards a game. So they're only allowing 274 yards of offense a game. So I think that's the issue. I think Marshall wins 34-21. Next game is 1-3 Southern Miss at 3-2 UTEP. Southern Miss is favored by 6. The over-under is 55.5. Southern Miss coming off of that win against North Texas. UTEP coming off of that loss to Louisiana Tech. Southern Miss needs to get Frank Gore Jr. rolling really early and keep him rolling the entire game. You got to keep your poor defense off the field as much as possible. That running game is important for this. And for UTEP, just take advantage of a bad defense. Score when you have the ball. Because if I'm Southern Miss, I'm not looking to give you the ball anytime soon. So I'm giving you a heavy dose of Frank Gore Jr. and whatever other running backs I got. So my player to watch is UTEP's quarterback Gavin Hardison with a 37.3 QBR, 1,056 yards, and 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Does he play well enough? Does he take advantage of that bad defense? A bad defense that gives up 40 points a game and that gives up 490 yards a game. Will he take advantage of that? I don't think he will. I think Southern Miss wins 31-27. Final game is Florida International at 0-2 against 1-2 Charlotte. Charlotte is favored by 7. The over-under is 53.5. Florida International coming off of that loss to MTSU. Yikes. And Charlotte coming off of a win against North Texas. My player to watch is Devontae Price with 26 attempts, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 10 average. So can Florida International get that run game going? Charlotte allows 207 rushing yards a game, so that's big for Florida International. And honestly, if Charlotte can just focus in on that one thing and get that running game stopped, I think they're going to win. I think it's a close one. I think Charlotte wins 30-28. And that's it for this week. Like I said, I'm going to do a separate video for the Coastal Carolina-Louisiana game, and I might do a separate game for Friday night's games just to keep it a little shorter, because if I did everything on Sunday, that video would be a long time. But that's it. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button.